6 months ago, I deleted social media from my phone. And calling it one of the best decisions I've ever made is an understatement. And I know that sounds clickbait, but it's not. Because after 180 days, something fundamentally has shifted in how I think, feel, and relate to my own life. And what I've discovered, and soon you will too, what the research tells us is that something shifts when you delete social media. And it shows up as something stronger. Clarity, a stronger sense of identity, and it's reconnecting with that quiet sense of unrealized potential so many of us feel. It's about seeing what we want to do with our lives and giving ourselves the ability to work towards that. But when this device right here constantly interrupts that, it dims the feeling we actually need to face and accept. So in this video, I want to share with you what 6 months deleting social media does, what's changed and what hasn't, and the deeper psychological reason why so many people continue to scroll even though they don't want to. So by the end of this video, I wouldn't be surprised if you would take up them apps and hit delete. As someone working in mental health and trained in the art of storytelling, I've spent years exploring the stories we tell ourselves and how they shape what we pay attention to, especially in a world that is designed to pull at our attention every day. And today I want to talk about the reality and value of stepping away. As I started reflecting on my own journey away from social media, I realized something. I grew up, and a lot of millennials did grow up in the beginning of it all. Like, we grew up when Facebook just had arrived and everything was so exciting. It felt genuinely social. And back then, likes weren't the currency, commenting was. And when something happened and you had a birthday or you were going out or something like that, we would have cameras and we would photograph the entire evening and we would upload around 400 or 500 up to thousands of pictures in one album on Facebook. I was in my early teens when social media entered my life. And through my teens and 20s, I have seen social media transform from family and friends sharing moments, commenting, keeping in touch, to a global industry built on attention, image, and performance. Because somewhere along the way, the technology got better, systems got smarter, and the people building them learned more and more about how our minds work and how they can keep our attention. And doing so exactly what they need to do to keep us hooked. So for me, what started out as something I was using harmless and fun and social slowly became something I couldn't stop using. And I was constantly thinking about that, which is how I knew I needed space. But finding that bravery or motivation was really hard. And it took a lot of time because everyone I know was using social media. But the thing is, every time I sat down to work or write or anything, or to do something that mattered to me, that itch of just scroll got stronger. And eventually, when I was just out with friends or family, part of my attention was already gone. I wasn't thinking about who I were with. I was thinking about what's going on my phone. What's in the news? Is there anything I need to know? And we don't need to know what's happening in the world all the time, but it is a feeling that's been trained by the way our phones is designed. And I will come back to that and we will learn more about how this works. And what was happening eventually was that I just needed that hit of dopamine, but I didn't know that dopamine was the thing I needed. But that's the thing that is happening in our mind when we're using the phone. So for a long time, I kind of tried to manage it. I turned off notifications, which I've also made a video about. And I started unfollowing people, making my social media less attractive. I tried to set app timers, but that itch kind of just remained. So it wasn't until I took up my phone and went in and deleted all the apps from it that something actually shifted. So let's try to look at what makes people continue to scroll even when they want to stop. By the way, if you have found some value in this, I would love for you to hit subscribe and support me on this journey. Thank you. Neuroscience shows how scrolling social media activates the brain's dopamine driven reward system. And people spend hours a day scrolling and repeatedly triggering these systems. Doing so, our impulse control gradually weakens. But we scroll because our brain is wired to seek information, and it kind of does regulate discomfort through quick stimulation. Because we are wired to not feel uncomfortable, our brain wants to keep us alive and it wants us to feel good. It slowly learns that scrolling makes us feel good, so it wanna recreate that feeling. And it's easier for our brain to rely on this automatic habit rather than conscious control. So over time, this creates a reinforced loop. So we keep scrolling to recreate these feelings. And it feels good in the beginning, but our brain isn't built to stay in that loop. Because when dopamine rises, it needs time to go down, so the system kind of can return to balance. But when we continue to scroll, our brain never really gets it time to reset. And when our brain stays out of balance for too long, mental well-being slowly declines. So this isn't really about willpower, or at least not only about willpower. This is about how this system is engineered to hijack our instinct. So when our mental well-being drops, we kind of want to seek out something that makes us feel good. Because we're wired to seek comfort and to feel good, when our mental well-being has declined, we seek out something to feel good about: food, alcohol, scrolling. And since we are wired also to seek information, continuing to scroll hits a lot of our instincts. And since it's engineered to keep us hooked, the algorithm slowly understands what we want to see more of. We end up in this loop. Clarity. Clarity is a big reason I haven't downloaded them on my phone again. Because as I deleted them from my phone and took a break, I become clearer every single day, and I felt it every second to minute. It started out as something like, oh, I have to scroll, and slowly, like, my imagination just become alive again. And with that, I become more clear in what I wanted to do and where I wanted to direct my energy. And this is important, and I'll explain. When I was on social media and scrolling, other people's opinions, what they were doing, how they were doing whatever, where they were, it all affected me. The drama, the influence, whatever. And when I was scrolling the news, that affected me. But then when I deleted the apps, I wasn't exposed to that. I wasn't exposed to everything and everyone in the world, which we truly are when we scroll. Those voices and that kind of influence slowly cease to exist in my mind. And here is why that is so important. Okay, psychology explains that we kind of are a result of the 5 people we spend the most time with. But when our daily life consists of scrolling through the endless drama or all the news, everything that is kind of negatively, it affects your brain. Slowly we become a part of that. And you know, the average person scroll up to around 4 hours a day. That's a lot of influence on the mind. But without those 4 hours, without that noise, I just started to realize that I was playful, that I really wanted to explore the mind more. And now that side of me had space to exist. And it all is clarity and being more present with what I genuinely wanted to do, who I want to talk to, and where I want to get inspiration from, which is what creates energy, which is what creates movement. And it's slowly transformed from that urge of consuming to the urge of creating. So now when my mind feels heavy, I just get outside, go for a walk instead of scrolling. When I'm at work, I just talk with colleagues, I just sit in silence. And all of this builds mental well-being, which is something we all need more of. Let me explain the technicalities of this. Social media, when we scroll, it triggers dopamine. And when we scroll to kind of recreate that good feeling we get, eventually that dopamine storage empties and we get into this negative feedback loop. This is kind of a pattern that resembles addiction, even if it's not addiction in a clinical sense. But this is why we should be wary about this. So ask yourself, when you wake up, do you feel the need to instantly check your phone, social media, news, check all the notifications that you have? And if you do, then ask yourself, who is actually in control of your life? Is it you or is it the phone? For me, that realization kind of became a turning point, because it's not supposed to be like that. We aren't meant to live like this, but we need to understand this a little bit better. My turning point was getting used to boredom. This is where a lot of people, when they delete social media, they feel this, I'm bored, so they download it again. But being in this a little bit of friction, staying bored, letting our minds kind of breathe, is the most important thing we can do. So instead of escaping being bored, I started to embrace that. And I let my thoughts wander. That kind of turned out to be more than fine. There's a lot of things I have kind of suppressed, but a lot of those things, when I was just confronted by them, that was also okay. That made me start YouTube. That made me read more again. It made me started to draw. It made me start to fix things in my apartment. And it made me start to write more again. I started to become more creative, as I explained. But this is really important because we are actually creative people. When we are able to use our creativity, we also start to create energy. And it creates movement. And all of this impacts our well-being. And personally, I just felt that I was slowly transforming from being a passenger in my own life to being in the driver's seat and taking control. And it's funny how this little change has this big impact. But it just comes down to how much in control we have let this device have on our lives. So now when I do end up scrolling, if a friend of mine shows me something on their social media, or if I'm on my computer using social media, which I have to do sometimes for work, I have a lot better relationship with that. Because when I do scroll now, I don't feel that I need to. I don't find value in it the same way. If I also scroll, it's more active, because sometimes I do scroll to seek out inspiration for creating something for YouTube. And if I feel like this tiny thing of being pulled in, I stop. And it feels really okay. It's not like I think about it. I just stop. And this is about being in control over my own life. It feels like more agency. And this is so important to realize that we do have. Just having the ability to watch a movie without feeling the urge to scroll, being in conversation with friends and family and not thinking about the phone, working and not thinking about the phone, it's so liberating. And if you found some value in this, I think you would like this video right here. Until next time, stay curious.